The second Humble Origin bundle dropped today, the 14th of April, with 9 games from everybody's favourite publisher, EA. More importantly, however, are the games any good? Let's take a look. Dragon Age Origins is the first title in this bundle, and even though it's creeping up on 6 years old, it's still one of the strongest titles here. You play as Grey Warden, one of the last of a legendary order of Guardians, with the quest to defeat the Archdemon and unite the split lands amidst a civil war. It's a story-rich fantasy RPG with multiple endings, so definitely a game that you could put hundreds of hours into. It has an incredible metascore of 91, and high praise from PC Gamer saying it's the RPG of the decade, and IGN admitting it keeps you coming back for more. It is important to remember, however, that these opinions and reviews were formed back in 2009, so whilst there's undoubtedly better RPGs out there now, for as little as 1 cent, you can't go far wrong with Dragon Age Origins. Peggle is the next game up, a title that couldn't possibly be further away from the premise of Dragon Age Origins whatsoever. A title many have heard of, yet not as many have played, Peggle is a game for anyone from 5 years old to 500 years old. A simple, fun and colourful puzzle game where the aim is to simply clear all the orange pegs from the board via combos, bonus points and magical powers to try and beat high scores. Featuring a metascore of 85, Peggle definitely isn't the online first-person shooter you probably weren't expecting anyway, but if you're picking up the bundle, give it a shot, you might be pleasantly surprised. Dead Space 2 is featured at number 3, the second title in the, yep, you guessed it, the Dead Space franchise. Widely considered as a worthy successor to the first game in the series, Dead Space 2 has you play once again as Isaac Clarke, this time fighting through a space station called the Sprawl, which is orbiting around Saturn as you fight towards an answer to hopefully end all the chaos filled with necromorphs and demented visions of Isaac's ex-girlfriend Nicole. If you're unfamiliar with the Dead Space series, it's a third-person action survival horror game set in the future. Dead Space 2 has a metascore of 87, so if you're someone who enjoys gore and various types of scares, Dead Space 2 isn't a bad choice. Medal of Honor Allied Assault War Chest is next, which, if you're unaware, is a bundle featuring Medal of Honor Allied Assault and both pieces of DLC for the game, Spearhead and Breakthrough. Medal of Honor used to be the series that went toe-to-toe with Call of Duty for the #1 spot in the military shooter genre, and Allied Assault is one of the titles from that era. It released in 2002, and unfortunately, like many old first-person shooters, it hasn't aged particularly well. It did receive a metascore of 91 at the time, but if the game were to release now, it'd pretty much be classed as shovelware due to the extremely outdated graphics and rough mechanics. If you are a fan of nostalgia trips, then it could be a good pickup, however that'd mean you'd played the game before and wouldn't be listening to this anyway. Give it a shot if you're buying the bundle anyway, but don't expect anything more than an outdated game in a now nearly forgotten franchise. Command & Conquer Generals plus the 0 Hour DLC is the final title in the Pay What You Want tier. The 7th title in the Command & Conquer series, Generals released back in 2003 and is a real-time strategy game which had a very positive reception during its initial release with a metascore of 84. Real-time strategy is one of the genres which does tend to age fairly well, as it's less about the graphics and more about the mechanics. However, while saying that, Generals isn't considered the best of the franchise, but it's also not considered the worst. Critic reviews vary from GamePro calling it a gaming masterpiece and scoring it 100, to Eurogamer classing it as a black mark on the Command & Conquer franchise with their score of 60. If you're looking for a gateway game to the real-time strategy franchise, you'd likely have a better time with a more recent Command & Conquer game, however veterans of the series may have a better time with Generals. The 5 aforementioned titles are all under the Pay What You Want tier, however you must pay at least $1 to receive Origin keys, along with Steam keys for whichever games are also on Steam. Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare is the first title in the Beat the Average section, and the most recent release in the entire bundle. A very different spin on the Plants vs Zombies series, which started off as a mobile puzzle tower defense game, Garden Warfare is a third-person multiplayer shooter in which one team plays as the plants while the other plays as the zombies. Critics have awarded it a metascore of 78, classing it as a fun and light-hearted take on the shooter genre, with not too much complexity and fun for all the family. Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare seems definitely worth it if you're looking for a fun multiplayer game to dig your teeth into without the 10-year-old screaming about how they had their way with your poor old mum. Dragon Age 2 is next, the sequel to Dragon Age Origins in the Pay What You Want tier. Obviously similar to Origins in that it's a fantasy, story-rich RPG, Dragon Age 2 has a very split opinion from the community. It's widely considered to be a much more streamlined and action-orientated experience than its predecessor, and it's a lot easier for newcomers to the genre, however many fans of Origins have said that they're highly disappointed with the changes the sequel made. Dragon Age 2 has a metascore of 82, which shows that even critics agree it's not quite as strong as the first, but undoubtedly a good game in its its own right. If you're new to the RPG genre, but do want to get your fix, it'd be a good idea to play and form your own opinion over Dragon Age 2. Even if you don't end up liking the game, a couple of dollars isn't too much of a price to pay due to the other 8 games you receive in this bundle. Bejeweled 3 is the third game in the Beat the Average tier, a franchise that pretty much everyone who's technologically adept has heard of. Bejeweled is your classic match 3 puzzle game where you explode various colour gems and power-ups to try and beat your high score. Number 3 simply expands on the concepts introduced by the first and second games, by introducing more game modes, higher definition textures, and more types of gem. It has a metascore of 82, and rightly so, as PopCap are undoubtedly the match 3 masters by this point. Another game which is suitable for gamers of any age, Bejeweled 3 is a nice supplement to the bundle. However, if you're looking for something with any resemblance of a story, Bejeweled definitely isn't the game for you. Mass Effect 2 is the final game in the bundle so far, the second in the trilogy of Mass Effect titles. Arguably the star title in this bundle, with a metascore of 94 and varying 100 out of 100 reviews from esteemed sites like Games Radar Plus and RP Gamer, Mass Effect 2 took everything the first game did right and made it better. You play as Commander Shepard, the protagonist for the entire trilogy, with the aim of finding out who is abducting entire human colonies and where they're taking them. Mass Effect is praised for its incredible storytelling and user choice, combined with solid shooting mechanics. It's safe to say, however, if you played the first and didn't enjoy your time, the same will undoubtedly happen with the second. It was nominated for 150 Game of the Year awards in 2010, and 97% of the over 4,000 user reviews on Steam are positive. Even though we're now 5 years on from its release, Mass Effect 2 has held its own fairly well. However, I'd recommend picking up the original alongside this bundle so you experience all the greatness Mass Effect has to offer. The 4 aforementioned titles are all available if you beat the average price, which currently sits at $4.50, however will likely change before you purchase, so double check before you buy. Overall, a solid bundle with the standout titles being Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect 2, however there really is something for everyone here. It is worth noting that these games have been on sales often before, and sometimes even free in the case of Dragon Age Origins and Peggle, so if you have a large backlog, make sure you don't already own them. As always, check back in 2 weeks' time for a review of the next Humble Bundle. Oh, we go to the chest. Might end up using... Oh no. Sorry. Stumbling over my commentary because, ow! I'm just thinking, getting confused between the run I did just have, where I got 9 lives, and I was thinking, oh yeah, we're actually going to have 10 attempts at this, because I had 9 lives in Eternal Collar. But, Guppy's Collar, even not Eternal Collar. But actually, no, I am incredibly incorrect with that assumption. Okay, even if we do come second, gotta do this without taking too much damage.